Hi, I'm Beverly Cohen. For my capstone project, instead of working with a nonprofit organization, as is typical for capstone projects, I instead worked with a political campaign. The campaign, Mia for Assembly, is a grassroots campaign working to get Mia Levis Porter elected to the California Assembly. She's running in the 52nd District of California, which encompasses parts of East LA and Glendale, including Echo Park, Highland Park, and Lincoln Heights. The goals, obviously, of her campaign is to get elected, but more so than that, her campaign goals support a California that employs progressive political visions to make a sustainable quality of living for Californians. She focuses on 6 key pillars, including gun violence prevention, education equity, the Green New Deal, criminal justice reform, healthcare for all, and transit equity. She focuses on maintaining a healthier, safer, more affordable, environmentally sustainable, equitable, and more just California. The 8052 district is really fascinating because there are more than 500,000 residents, and more than half of those residents in the district identify as Latinx, but at the same time, it's currently being gentrified, which makes it a fascinating place to be running for a political seat in. Personally, what made me want to partner with this nonprofit is that in my sophomore year of Marlboro, I had the opportunity to go to the Iowa caucus. As I attended it, I began to really think about why Marlboro had such a focus on national politics and not local ones. It seemed like it would be so much easier to get things done if we connected with the people working so close to us. To be honest, before I started working on this campaign, I had no idea what an assembly member was in California or what they did. I had no idea what neighborhood councils were, and most of the things I learned in hindsight, I realized were pretty basic information that I should know as a citizen of California. In my initial work, I worked on recruitment, filmmaking, and texting. I did pretty basic, I would say, intern stuff. I got really familiar with spreadsheets and kind of what played a role of being like plugged into whatever the campaign needed help with. I also did some research regarding opposition research, as well as campaign write-ups related to housing. Honestly, it was pretty terrifying to help out on the campaign at first. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing, and I was given a pretty large amount of responsibility with it. Over time, however, as I worked on the campaign, I was able to both adapt and become better and more efficient at the work I was doing. Throughout my volunteering with the Mia for Assembly campaign, I didn't really focus on a particular program. I was essentially there to help out in any way I could. I focused on the less glamorous work of campaigning, making spreadsheets, as I previously mentioned. I was, however, able to do some oppositional research, which was pretty illuminating about the inner workings of politics. Because like finding an opponent's Etsy shop or searching through their tweets is like basically the closest to being a spy that I think I'll ever get. I identified my capstone project through a gradual realization that Marlboro students needed to localize their focus on politics. The Mia for Assembly campaign ran super smoothly, so I didn't think they really needed me to think of a project for them. However, when I spoke to my friends and my peers about what I was doing, I realized that none of us kind of had any idea about who our local politicians were and what they did. I also noticed how impactful just reaching out to local politicians could be. Mia was always super ready to hear from her constituents, and I realized that if Marlboro students reached out to their local politicians the way that I had been able to talk to Mia, they would be able to kind of get their issues that they found important to them really on the table in conversations and political conversations. So my capstone project, I kind of have been working this year to promote a general awareness of what Marlboro students about like what assembly districts are and their representatives are. One of my biggest takeaways I gained from this experience was how accessible local politics are. As part of my capstone, I made, for example, Valentine's cards for every member of the senior class, as there's a election that for many of us is our first election coming up in November. And on these Valentines, I had each class member's assembly district as well as their representative written down so that they could reach out to them. by doing so, I kind of hope to plant these seeds of action within my classmates and letting them know kind of how easy it is to reach out to these member of politics. Thank yous. I want to thank the whole MIA for Assembly came for allowing me to both participate in and observe their work, as well as trusting me to take on the responsibility of helping out in a real world political campaign, which was so illuminating and I'm so grateful for. I want to thank my family and my friends for accompanying me to text and phone baking of the year, as well as supporting me emotionally throughout the entire process. I want to thank the Community Partnerships Office, more specifically Ms. Wright and Mr. Espinoza, who've supported me throughout my entire Marlboro career, for being a sophomore community outreach representative to senior year. You've always been there for me as some of my biggest cheerleaders on campus. Ms. Wright, thank you so much for being my advisor for this campaign project. You are truly one of the most kind and supportive teachers I've ever had the pleasure of learning from at Marlboro. Throughout my years of work with you, I've always felt pushed and supported in the best way possible. I always know when we sit down for a meeting, I'm going to have one of the most productive brainstorming sessions of my life. So thank you so much for this year and the previous years of work.